Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Season 1, maybe, but series also. I don't normally film here, but I have nowhere else to film currently, so that's why we're in this kitchen again. Anyway, I've never read, actually, the comic, graphic novel, whatever you want to call it. I've heard it's good. It looks nice in bookstores and on friends' bookshelves, but I've never read it. However, I feel like I'm talking about it more from the movie to this, which I think is how a lot of people are watching it, just so you know my context, I guess. But when I think of Scott Pilgrim, initially, like before this show, I would think mostly how it's kind of style over substance, and how I actually really like the style of Scott Pilgrim. Most of the time I watch it is to see the style and how the special effects and how Edgar Wright directed it and all that stuff. And when I was watching this show, it occurred to me that I know every single character in this. Like, I didn't need to go, oh, who is Knives? Who is young Neil? Who is the vegan bassist guy? Like, I might not know their names, but like, I pretty much know all of them, you know? And I don't know if this is really just a style over substance thing anymore when I'm watching it. It kind of feels like there was some substance to it, and I did know these characters, and I think this show particularly could not work if that was not true, actually. As much as people say it's a very empty movie, I think this show actually probably, since it is, in my mind, more related, it's very related to the movie. It has the English voice cast, is all the actors from the original film. It has, particularly the first episode, uses a lot of the same beats, I think intentionally, from the movie. I think it's very related to the movie. But like the fact that, and most people on the internet, and most people who've just seen movies, know all these characters really well, is pretty remarkable, and kind of says a lot about the writing. Scott Pilgrim, the movie, is maybe deeper than we initially thought. I sort of have thought that more recently. People are too rough on it. But I think this show kind of complements the film in the best way. Now, I know a lot of people, and the big thing, and if this is a spoiler, I guess this will probably get into some spoilers, so if you haven't watched the show, do talk about how it was advertised as one thing, and then after the first episode, Scott is basically gone for most of the show. And I know the fundamental idea of advertising, or especially with movies and TV, is that you advertise a certain thing and then people get that certain thing. If you advertise differently, the audience will be upset or angry, and it's just like a fundamental sort of rule thing. And I get that to a degree, but I also think it's kind of cool with someone who watches a bunch of stuff all the time that something messes with that. Like, it gets kind of boring, or like, oh cool, the thing I thought it would be is the thing. I think that's fascinating. A lot of people look at media as just, you know, consumerist entertainment product and don't like it. I understand that it's a valid concern. I also don't sort of respect your opinion whatsoever. But to each their own, I guess. I did actually like that. And I do think when it goes on in Ramona, it's this basically about Ramona going through her exes, seeing her discover each of her 7 evil exes, which would make more sense because they're like her exes, not Scott Pilgrim's. And kind of this self-discovery thing as she tries to figure out what happened to Scott, as she's convinced there's something more and that he's kidnapped somewhere. I think that's a very interesting narrative, frankly. The whole idea of the show, and that like each of the moments of the characters, like you have to know them. Like the thing that also showed to me with this, and I guess it is an anime. It's done by Science Saru, who co-owned, I guess, co-led by the director of Mind Game, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I think that's pretty cool. This isn't maybe the kind of animation that director is known for, which would be amazing, but it's still really, really cool. I think I really like the design and the anime of it. It's not kind of doing it so conceptually, because I think Scott Pilgrim plays very into being in this style, so it feels so natural you sort of forget about the stylization. Maybe that's part of why the first episode is the way it is, to like just like get you used to this being the way it is, and then we can get into the real meat of the show. Or maybe it's just how they structured it and that sort of works out. But I do think it's like, how many properties could you know this many people and be excited and understand? And I do think another show that sort of did this was the Masters of the Universe show recently. I forget the subtitle of it, where like He-Man disappeared pretty quickly. And this is similar to that. And I do think He-Man, although that was a property I've known since I was a little kid, I do have sort of a love for, and I do sort of know those characters. I don't know if everyone does necessarily. I think I like the characters of Scott Pilgrim more than He-Man. But it definitely plays in the world rather than being about a character, which I think that's really what this show does. It's like, you're going to have the whole cast back. What are they all doing? If you're going to have Chris Evans and Mae Whitman and Elizabeth Winstead and Michael Cera and all these people, like, what are you doing with them? And it's interesting for them to do something more. Apparently everyone came back except for the twins because they didn't say anything, so they got somebody else. Although I feel like that maybe isn't true, but I didn't really look it up that much, so maybe it is true. I don't fucking know. But the whole idea of Ramona kind of going on her own quest of self-discovery, that's much more interesting than like Scott Pilgrim again, but animated sounds really boring. So I guess this is more exciting than the typical, animation to live action remake. I guess live action to animation remake is like, oh, we should do something interesting, rather than just that it's being animated. The first episode, I will say though, caught me off guard because I didn't like it. And then when he says that thing about Sonic to Ramona, I was like, yeah, everybody in the 90s knew that. Like, that's not even a good fact. That's not like the Pac-Man. Like, are we downgrading Scott Pilgrim's facts? Like, that really upset me because I'm like, everybody knows that. Like you talk about how interesting each of the shows are. That's the conversation. Scott Pilgrim could not flirt with me. That's what I learned from this. Like, he would not get anywhere. I would be like, yeah, I know. I watched both of them when they were on. Everyone did. Like, it's why I like chili dogs. Like, you don't need to fucking tell me that, Scott Pilgrim. Like, what the fuck is this? I was really... That's like my biggest complaint on the whole show was like, how could he do this to me? How could he give me a really basic video game fact like that? Like, that's really upsetting, frankly. I don't know what, like, I'm sort of joking, but also, like, it really pissed me off. It's like, that's, I mean, that is like what a normal basic guy would say. So is it good or not? I don't think it is. I do like them going through like relationships and the idea of relationships and what they mean to you and all those things. I also liked getting into more spoilers, older Scott, because now I have someone I can cosplay as. I mean, I was going to end up with a jacket with an X-Men logo on it at some point. So it's totally a thing that was going to work out for me, I guess. So I can totally be older Scott Pilgrim for as long as I have this beard. I'm really excited about that. That was like good personal news for me. Mostly I like the voice cast. I like that Weird Al was here. I also like that Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are in there for a second. That was funny. I'm wondering, is this connect to Hot Fuzz in some way? Are they all in the same... Is it Edgar Wright universe? I like the Edgar Wrong joke. That was pretty funny. But most people, like Chris Evans at first I didn't like, but it kind of grew on me. I think most of the people I was okay with, but it did at first seem like some of them weren't the greatest voice actors. I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Will Forte and Michael Cera worked pretty well. Anna Kendrick at first it fell off. I don't know. Some people it's like at first, I don't know when they delivered these lines or did multiple sessions or something, but it felt like they were half not sure how to do this necessarily. Actually, Chris Evans should have been better. He was much better in Lightyear than in this. What was up with that? But I like the United States of Whatever in this. Sifl and Ollie getting to finally be in the Scott Pilgrim stuff is cool. I know it's like Liam Lynch or whatever, but to me it's Sifl and Ollie. I think this is a fun show. Watching Ramona change her hair every episode, which I guess is part of the line where she goes, I change my hair every day, dude. It was fun revisiting the show and like revisiting clips of it all over social media of the movie as well as this. I do think this is actually I think I like it more than Master Universe, but I think I like that it's like the idea of this and Master Universe, I like let's play in this world, because I think I've complained a few times about like world building in the modern sense. It's like everything needs to be thoroughly explained and it often feels really dull, because I like the idea of world building. I often say the original Star Wars, because in that you're like, wait, what's the Clone Wars? What's going on with this? What's this guy? Like, are we going to go more into that? But you also get Darth Vader and you get this thing, you get that thing. So it kind of hints at stuff, but gives you stuff. And this, it like definitely gave me interesting ideas. Definitely like opened up certain ideas of time travel and all these things. But at the same time, the thing with Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, you could see them doing more with this. Like, I know they say like, we kind of were afraid of streaming, so we just sort of made this season, and if there's another one, that'd be cool. I hope there's another one. Actually, I kind of am set up for, like, I would like to see them do more. I don't know the book, so I'm assuming there's, like, more story there and stuff, but we'll see. I think this is a fun show. It kind of shows me there's more to this property, and this property was in Scott Pilgrim had more staying power and more good characters than, you know, just like celebrities having fun with Edgar Wright, which is sort of how the movie felt. It kind of like showed me there's a lot more nuance there. So I think in some ways, like, you know, I've rarely seen a show follow-up or any follow-up to a movie make me sort of appreciate the original thing more, or the first movie more. And this actually did. Like, as I've rewatched parts of the movie, I'm like, I actually like this more now after the show, which is pretty cool. I also like the show. I think it's a good show. I think it was just sort of a fun lunchtimey show for me while I had lunch at work and stuff. I don't know if it's like an amazing thing, or like it's not Scavenger's Reign, it's not My Adventure Superman, it's not anything like that, but I did like it, like, goes more into the idea of these relationships, what it says about Ramona, what it says about Scott going into time travel, where these things end up, who these people are, everything with Wallace and Todd, the whole thing with Gideon and Lucas Lee. I also, Brie Larson was maybe the one that I wasn't super into her as a voice actress, although I do like her as an actress. But the whole world just, like, converted so well. Like, it reminded me of when I was a kid. I used to like things like Police Academy, the cartoon, and Karate Kid and stuff. I don't remember if those are good. That was a long time ago. But this is, like, at the time I, like, very much respected them. I thought they were really cool. This is like if that was now, but I'm pretty sure those things aren't, like, good, and this was good. So it's sort of like that, I guess, how I felt when I was 8 watching those shows. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever as I talk to you in my kitchen, but I think Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is a very fun, neat show. It's probably not for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. In fact, if you haven't seen the movie and watched this show, I would actually like to know, like, what's the fuck is that like? You know, they kind of go hand in hand, but we've always wanted, like, something more. As much as this plays this sort of like Back to the Future 2, like, other plotline sort of thing, or, you know, the Beauty and the Beast Christmas special or something, I think this works pretty well. It works more as a sequel and a nice revision that, like, opens up the world, rather than, it's like it revisits it a little and then just springboards off of that into its own cool thing about Ramona, which I think is really neat. And it's like expands on a character we've seen so much cosplay to and heard so many people talk about. It's kind of neat, like, seeing more of the character of Scott Pilgrim we hear most about. You know, people saying, I want to be your Ramona or something, which I always thought was a weird phrase, to be honest with you. But I think this is a good, fun show, and it's very good at being a fun anime. Does it, like, reinvent the wheel or change anything? I think it makes me appreciate the source material, or maybe not the comic, but, you know, the movie. Makes me appreciate the movie where this all sort of thing came from. No, wait. Okay. Well, it makes me appreciate the movie more, which you can't say for a lot of these things. And it took me back to, like, actually liking animated shows and movies again, like when I was a kid. So I think it works better than you'd ever expect it to, and does things you never expected it to do. And I think that's really cool. I think that's a pretty interesting and smart way to have done this, and I really applaud them for actually doing something different with this property. Like, I'm surprised they let them do this. So it kind of, like, makes you kind of respect all of this a lot more. Probably, like, sews up that legacy a little better than you'd really ever expect something like this to do. Like, kind of added a lot of heart to a streaming show that I'm sure they just wanted for the IP and SEO and everything, and kind of says a lot more than maybe the kind of emptiness of just having it to have it was ever meant to. So if you have seen Scott Pilgrim Takes Off and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.